The other guy that could potentially carve out as a rookie a goal line role is Josh Kelley, coming into the Chargers here. I'm trying to figure out this backfield because obviously we've seen how valuable Melvin Gordon's been these last 3 or 4 years. We saw what Ekeler did last year, and it's just Anthony Lynn's offense seems to scheme a ton of work, both and that might be Rivers too. I know he has a tendency to throw to his running backs, but it is a very running back centric offense. Now that they've also hyped up Justin Jackson a ton this offseason. So, I mean, is this a 3-headed nightmare? Is Ekeler, should we be nervous about his value at all? What do you make of the Chargers backfield next year?
Yeah, to me, I'm actually going to go back and chart Kelley officially, but I watched enough to kind of get a feel for the player before the draft because I thought Kelley would go day 3. I just wasn't sure how early. He's, kind of just a classic downhill guy. No nonsense. He's going to pick up what's blocked for him. I thought he was a little bit better receiver than his production showed. Again, I'm going to go back and chart and make sure, but I don't know if Josh Kelley's a better player than Justin Jackson, honestly. The little bit we've seen out of Justin Jackson, he looked like a baller. I mean, there was a few carries he had in the last couple of years where it's like, damn, there's something here with Jackson. So to me, I think, again, we probably won't see training camps this year, and I think that's going to put Kelley automatically behind Jackson. And once the practices do start rolling and games start rolling, I think we might see Jackson be the clear number 2 to Ekeler. I don't necessarily view the Kelley pick as anything more than we just desperately needed some depth, and this was a 4th round pick on a guy that we liked as a downhill runner, but probably not somebody they're going to use as a featured player.
Gotcha. Do you think Ekeler, those first 4 weeks, right, without Gordon last year were ridiculous? I don't have the stats right on me, but I mean, I know he only was outscored by McCaffrey, just lighting up scoreboards, over 21 fantasy points per game, I believe. Is there a chance we get that Ekeler all year? Or do you think this is suggesting we might get a committee situation all year?
It'll be a committee. Before I left the NFL Network, I actually got a chance to interview Austin Ekeler.
Oh,
he's
nice.
He's one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. I talked video games with him for a long time, but I asked him about this, and I was like, the first month of the season, you were just an absolute stone cold baller without Melvin Gordon. In the future, I asked him do you view yourself as a workhorse back, kind of like how we think of Melvin Gordon, or do you see yourself as a committee type player? And his answer was pretty frank. He's like, I think I can be the lead, but we want to make sure I'm fresh and make sure that, I can still be explosive late in the season. And to me, I think that they're never going to use Austin Ekeler as a Le'Veon Bell, Zeke Elliott type player where they're playing every single snap. I just don't think that's the type of player Ekeler is. My biggest concern for Ekeler is not necessarily Josh Kelley or Justin Jackson. It's the loss of Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers targeted his running backs more often than any quarterback in the NFL last year. It wasn't even close. Rivers was just constantly checking the ball down to Ekeler and Gordon. And I just don't know if Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor are those types of quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's a great point there too. I wonder. I gotta look back. I've been writing about it, but I gotta see how Shady McCoy kind of did with Tyrod. Was there any kind of, and that was with Anthony Lynn too. I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but I feel like he had a decent receiving year. Certainly not 100 something targets and 90 catches like Ekeler, but you're right. Yeah, that could definitely be a pretty big concern.